These are the Form Lighting smoked LED taillights, and they are available for all 2024 and newer Mustang. Now, the Form options are currently one of the more affordable full replacement taillights that should appeal to Mustang owners looking to get away from those boring and ordinary stock red lights and into something that gives off a very sleek and sinister appearance. Now, these DOT-approved taillights will pack the full LED operation. They will still maintain that sequential functionality and can be had all for right around that mid $600 price range. So the smoke taillights that we have here today from Form should appeal to the S650 owners out there who are big fans of that smoked appearance with the ride. Maybe you're looking to do all of the lighting on your S650, but you prefer to go about things the proper way with a complete housing swap. Now, sure, you can absolutely save some money. Check out some of the vinyl tint kits here on the site for your factory lights, but at that point, you definitely have to make sure you nail the install because sometimes you can get some questionable results if you don't quite nail the job. Now, with that being said, again, these are going to deliver that very aggressive smoked appearance while delivering a fit and finish of something that could easily have been a factory Ford part. Now, another feature here is the fact that these taillights are going to be a simple plug and play swap, as we'll show you here in a little bit with our install. Now, despite that dark smoke lens, you still are getting the standard red lighting through very modern and very bright LEDs. And that's why these lights have still been given the DOT and SAE stamp of approval, which, by the way, does make them legal for use in all 50 states. Now, those red LEDs are going to operate much in the same manner as your stock taillights, so expect the standard operation here with the running lights, the brake lights, and of course, maintaining that sequential turn signal functionality, which is certainly one of the iconic Mustang features. Now, those LEDs are going to be located behind the smoked polycarbonate lenses and then nestled into that ABS plastic housing here, which has been designed to be a direct swap with those factory taillights, so no cutting, modification, wiring, anything needed. Again, 100% plug and play. Finally, guys, the Form lights have been backed by a 2-year limited warranty just in case you run into any issues. All right, price point here quickly for the Form smoke taillights will hover in that mid $600 price range, give or take a bit, making these one of the more affordable full replacements currently here on the site when compared to some other options for your S650. Especially once you start comparing these to other options such as the Euro style taillights, for instance, in addition to some of the RGB stuff as well. They're gonna cost you a few $100 more at the end of the day. Regardless, if you want a full breakdown of our current offerings for your S650 at home, definitely check out the rest of our selection here at AM. All right, last but not least, now let's segue into the installation process. And as I mentioned earlier, guys, you're looking at a very simple plug and play swap here. So figure a pretty soft 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you, I would say, 2 hours at absolute most to complete from start to finish, and that's if you're taking your time. But now I'll give you a better idea of how things might go down in the garage or driveway at home. Let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, clip remover tool, plastic pry tool, a couple different size extensions, 7, 8, and 10 millimeter sockets. Today we're installing taillights on our Mustang, so let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is pop off our rear bumper to get access to remove our taillights. So I'm gonna hop underneath first, remove all those 7 millimeter screws and a few push clips that we need to disconnect on the bottom. So we're right underneath the center of our rear bumper. We've got these 9 7 millimeter screws to remove. Just grab a 7 millimeter socket to pull them out. Now on the sides of our bumper, next to our mufflers, we've got 2 clips on each side. Grab a clip remover tool to pop these out. Do the same thing on the other side. Now we're gonna come to our wheel well. We've got a 7 millimeter bolt back in this pocket, one here, and then one connecting our bumper to our quarter panel. So for the one in that pocket at the bottom, I'm using the short extension with my 7mm socket. And then I'm going to ditch the extension for the last two. And then the last one is going up into our quarter panel. So just pull that fender liner back and pull that bolt out. And now with those bolts removed, we can pull on the corner to pop our bumper out of the bracket. Do the same thing on the other side. And now we're gonna work our bumper free and pull it back. Now we still have a wire harness connected, so be careful, don't yank it off. We'll get that once we pop our bumper off. Now, right behind that screw that was in that pocket, we have a bracket. In the center, we've got the U-clip that that screw goes into, but then we also have two more screws right next to that hole. Now, it's gonna be tough to see. If you poke your head around, you can kind of see where it's at. Take your 7mm socket and remove both of those. And now with those removed, we can pull this out, and those two holes right there are where our bolts came from. So now you can do that on the other side, and then we'll fully remove our bumper. So now you can pop your trunk. We're gonna release the two corners of our bumper and pull back on it. Now we still have a connector for our wiring harness that's plugged in, so don't yank on it. We'll get that once we have this removed. So now right below the passenger side taillight, you can see our connector. Push in on that black tab, pull your connector out, and then you can fully remove your bumper. So now with our rear bumper off, we need to remove this lower bracket to get our taillight out. We've got a bolt down here, and one here, and then we've got a clip in the middle holding it in. So grab an 8mm socket and get those bolts out first. And we'll just pop that clip out. That's your one clip. And we'll just let this hang out here for now while we fully remove our taillight. So now I'm gonna come to the top of our taillight and remove this little trim piece filler panel. I'm gonna take a plastic pry tool and just get under there and pop this out of the clips. So now we'll hop inside the trunk. I'm gonna remove this one push clip at the top on the side with a clip remover tool. And then we've got two twist knobs on this plastic piece. So you can just twist those to the left to unscrew them. Now that'll give you access to pop this piece out a little bit. You don't need to fully remove this piece. We have enough access just pulling it back. And then we'll pop our carpet out of the way so we can get back to our nuts. So now behind the carpet, we're gonna come to our wire harness and follow that down to the connector. You're gonna press in on the tab, that tab right there, and pop your connector out. And then up by the connector, we've got one of our 10mm nuts. So grab a 10mm socket and remove it. And now pull back on that plastic piece and you'll find your last two nuts. Remove those with the 10mm socket as well. And now we can fully remove our tail light. Now down at this bottom corner, we have a magnet. So I'm gonna pop that first. And then we'll just slide that out. Disconnect the grommet for your wire harness and pull that connector through. Now that we have our stock taillight removed, we're gonna have to remove this magnet at the lower inner corner of it. So just grab on one side, you've got a black plastic tab here that you can use to pry against, and just pop that out. And then we're gonna grab our new tail light and we're just gonna push it back in the same way. Line that up and press it in. Then we're gonna start with tucking our wires into that circle hole. So we've got two connectors here. The one with the blue wire is gonna be for your startup sequence, and the one with the red wire is gonna be for your turn signal color. Now, if you want the startup sequence, you leave this blue wire connector connected. If you don't want it, you're just gonna lift up on that tab and unplug it, and then just put it in just like this. Now, we wanna show that startup sequence, so I'm gonna leave this one plugged in. Now on the red wire, this is gonna be for your turn signal color. You can choose between red and amber. Now with this red wire connector connected, you're gonna get the amber turn signals. And if you pop up that tab and disconnect it, you're gonna have red turn signals. And once again, I'm just gonna leave it as amber. We'll show you both in this video. So I'm gonna leave both of these connected, and then I'll push my wires through and install my taillight. So I'm gonna take my connectors and shove those through first, followed by my connector here. And then I'm just gonna feed those wires into that hole until I get to my grommet. And then I'm just gonna work my grommet into place. Just like that, so if you give it a little tug, it stays in there. And then I'm gonna have to kind of tuck my tail light up in the pocket of the quarter panel. Make sure your wires aren't in the way. Line up your holes and guide that in. Now we can reinstall our lower bracket. Line up this white clip with this hole, and then these two holes with these two pegs. Press it into place, and then grab your screws and an 8mm socket and extension. Thread them in. And I'm going to throw my ratchet on the other side and tighten these down. So now we can go into the trunk and plug in our connector. Now, depending on when your Mustang was built, you may use one of two connectors. For the early build dates, like the one that we have this rectangular connector. If you have a later build date, form includes the adapter harness, so you're covered either way. You can just plug that in there and then plug the other side into the connector inside of your trunk. And like I said, we don't need to use that, so I'm just gonna go ahead and plug in this connector. Press it until you hear that click, and then we can grab our first nut to thread on our stud. That's deep behind the carpet. And then we'll grab a 10mm socket and go in and tighten that down. And then we'll pull back on that trunk plastic and install our other two nuts. Tighten those down with the same 10mm socket. And now we're just going to tuck that carpet back behind that trim panel, and then take your two twist knobs and thread them onto those studs. And then with those in, we can take our push clip for the top of our carpet up here, line up the hole and push that in. Then you can repeat that process on the other side. Now we can reinstall our filler panel. So line up those three clips with the three holes and just press it down and do the same thing on the other side. And now we're ready to pop our bumper back on. So I'm gonna start with that one connector. And then I'll lift my bumper up, line it up, and press it into place. So now we're gonna go down to our wheel well. We're gonna start with the 2 screws down here. We've got 3 clips. The center one is gonna get a screw, but it has to go through the fender liner first. So we're just gonna do the top and bottom for now. So I'm gonna pop that back into place, pull my fender liner back, grab my screws and start threading those in. And then grab your 7mm socket and tighten those down. And we can pop our fender liner back into place, and we're gonna put that last screw through the middle hole. And then I'm gonna put that screw in the middle. And then we'll just pop our fender liner back and reinstall the one that connects our bumper to the quarter panel. Then do that same thing on the other side. Next we can come to the side of our bumper next to our muffler and reinstall our 2 push clips. Do the same thing on the other side. And now finally, we can come right to the center of our bumper and reinstall all of those screws at the bottom. The 2 screws without the captured washers are going here and here. So I'm gonna thread those in first. And then I'll thread in all of the rest of my screws. And then grab a 7mm socket to tighten all these down. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Form Lighting LED taillights with black housing and smoked lens for your 2024 and newer Mustang. Thank you for watching, and for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.